Om Yanantaminandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshormilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Well, we just arrived from Italy. We had very beautiful programs there, celebrating the official inauguration of Gurudev's temple, and we had very, very nice gathering of devotees. There were some devotees who came who hadn't been for years, actually, to the ashram. So it was very, very nice to see how, everyone, Gurudev, he's still bringing us together, Gurudev still has that, as he did when he was physically present, he still has that power now to bring us together, to unite us. This is the one thing that we all agree on. So it was a very beautiful gathering and celebration. We had a full weekend of festivals, and yesterday was a very special day for us. It was Gora Dwadashi, and actually it was my consideration, whether perfect or imperfect, but it was my consideration that because Srila Gurudev left on that day of Gora Dwadashi, that Titi, the 12th day of the bright moon, of the waxing moon. And so, it seems like, and it happened to fall on a Sunday, which is the best day for everybody to get together. So we felt, it was an appropriate day to hold that inauguration. And it also the disappearance day of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, three very great Vaishnavas in our Sampradaya. And Raghunath, maybe we'll say we're late, but say a little bit about each of these very great Vaishnavas for our purification. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, we don't hear so much about, but he was one of the 6 Goswamis, of course, of Vrindavan. A little younger, I think, and he originally was from the East Bengal side, what is now Bangladesh. Mahaprabhu, when Mahaprabhu was still Nimai Pandit, before he went to Gaya and received initiation and then showed himself as being lost in divine love, when he was still like this great scholar, Nimai Pandit, and teaching. Nimai Pandit, he was so great, he became so famous that he was invited to different regions to teach. And so at one time he was invited to what was East Bengal at that time. And at that time he met one Vaishnav called Tapan Mishra. And Tapan Mishra, he had been, for some time, he had been studying the scriptures, and he was puzzled. He was trying, because as we know in the Vedas, there's so many different things that are presented, and he was trying to come to some clear conclusion. What is the real path by which we can progress? What is the highest path, and what is the real practice for this era? And he was trying to study and trying to understand. He couldn't come to any clear conclusion. And then he had a dream one night, and I'm not sure who it was exactly, but he had some type of vision in this dream, and he was told, soon the great Nimai Pandit is going to come here. You ask him. He will give you the proper conclusion. And he was also told, this Nimai Pandit is not an ordinary man, but he is an avatar of the Lord himself. So then when Mahaprabhu came there, Tapan Mishra approached him and told him, I had this dream and I've been puzzled for some time. And Mahaprabhu explained to him the, Harinam Sankirtan, this is the Dharma for this age, for Kali Yuga, Nam Sankirtan, Krishna Kirtan, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya, Sarva Papa Pranashanam, Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas, Tam Namami, Harim Param, as we're told at the conclusion of Bhagavatam. This indication is given at the end of the very last verse of the last scripture of Veda Vyas. Let us all engage in this Nam kirtan, by which all suffering, all sin can be dispelled. So anyhow, Mahaprabhu clarified that. And also Tapa Mishra said, and I was told in my dream that you're not an ordinary person, but you are the Lord himself. And Mahaprabhu told him, keep that to yourself, don't tell anybody, Like if you tell things before it's the proper time, it won't be good, so keep it to yourself. And he also instructed him to go to live with his family in Benares, Varanasi. Nowadays, is it called Benares nowadays? I'm not sure. It's sometimes called Kashi or Benares or Varanasi. It's known by different names. But anyhow, Mahaprabhu instructed him to go to live there and said, later I will come and meet you there. And kind of like a mysterious thing because Benares, it was like the Mayavad capital. So he would be going there and he would be practically the only Vaishnav there, So it's like, kind of like not an easy instruction, like go to like the heaviest, most anti-devotional place in India, basically. That's what he was telling him. But and not giving a clear explanation of why or when he would come there. But anyhow, Tapa Mishra, of course, he went with his wife and his young son, who was Raghunath Bhatta, and he went and stayed there. And then years later, after Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and when Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan, he went via Varanasi, and he was bathing in the Ganges one day, and Tapa Mishra came at that time, and then they met, and Tapa Mishra recognized him, and even though he was a sannyasi now. Jai Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Jai Mahaprabhu. Thank you for letting us come back home. He looks very beautiful. Did you dress him, Radharani? It's very beautiful, beautiful jewelry and clothing and garland. So they met at that time, and Tapa Mishra brought him to his house, and so Mahaprabhu met with Raghunath Bhatta, who was like a young boy at that time. And Raghunath Bhatta, he used to do very menial services for Mahaprabhu. He used to, like what it's mentioned, wash his dishes or give him massage, like this. And that time Mahaprabhu stayed for just a few days, and then he went to Vrindavan. And then when he came back from Vrindavan, then he stayed there for over 2 months. And that was where he instructed Sanatana Goswami. Mahaprabhu, for 2 months continually he gave instruction to Sanatana Goswami, and that was there in the company of Tapa Mishra, and Raghunath Bhatta was there as a boy. And Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Bhatta not to marry, but to take care of your parents. Like, your parents are Vaishnavas, so look after them in their old age, but don't get married. And then when your parents leave the world, then come to Vrindavan, go to Vrindavan, and you stay with Rupa and Sanatana. And so that happened like that. And he went once at least to Puri, met Mahaprabhu there, and then he went and he stayed in Vrindavan for the rest of his days, and he became known as one of the 6 Goswamis, and living there with Rupa, Sanatana, and Jiva, and Gopal Bhatta. And he was, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, he was especially known for his very sweet voice. They used to have gatherings of hearing Bhagavatam, and Raghunath Bhatta, he would read Bhagavatam, and he had like very sweet voice. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, like the kokil, it's usually translated as a cuckoo, some variety of cuckoo. I don't know if you've heard the you haven't been to Navadvip, but you remember the kokil. You only hear it like at certain times, during the mating season, like maybe spring or something. Very beautiful sound. But anyway, it said he would read Bhagavatam in different tones, very sweet, sweet tones. And everyone would hear from him these beautiful recitations. And also the other prominent thing that we hear about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is that he would not hear any criticism of a Vaishnava. He would not hear anything. He didn't like to hear anything. And if anyone would say anything to him, he would say, well, they are trying to serve Krishna. You know, that would be like his response. So that is Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And then Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, very great acharya in our line. He is known as our Prayojana Acharya. We were talking last week, right? Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he's known as the Acharya of Prayojan Tattva. You know, meaning Prayojan. You're familiar with Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan, little bit, something. Sambandha means understanding of what is what, and what is who we are, what is the real nature of this environment, what is our real relationship with this environment, with the Lord, all of this, like, you know, foundational understanding. This is called Sambandha, understanding how everything works, you know, knowing I'm not this body, like this type, what is the Supreme, what is my relationship with the Supreme. This is all called Sambandha. Prayojan means what is the goal of life. And Abhideya, what is the means to the goal, what is the way, what is the path. So Rupa Goswami is known as the Abhideya Acharya. He illuminated most the practice of Bhakti, the nature of pure devotion. And Sanatana Goswami, known as our Sambandha Acharya, you know, who showed most elaborately, you know, what is the nature of things, the environment, and so on. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, he's known as the Acharya of the Prayojan Tattva, you know, who showed us most clearly what is our highest goal, our highest attainment. And in general, we say Prayojan, our Prayojan is Krishna Prema, right? The goal of life is Prema, divine love. But in a more specific way, you know, like specifically in the Rupa Nuga line, you know, what is the highest attainment? That was shown very clearly by Raghunath Das Goswami to be Radha Dasyam. You know, Prema, once you're talking in this high level, Prema is a general thing, you know, but more refined, more specific, what type of Prema, you know, what type of way, no, in the mood of Radha Dasyam, you know, under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. You know, our service is to her. We are more concerned with her service than we are with Krishna's service. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he showed that, and he expressed very deep, extreme affinity, you know, heart-rendingly so, you know, affinity for the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, to the extent of saying, you know, without you, without your mercy, what am I going to do with Vrindavan? What am I going to do with Krishna if I don't have your mercy? So a very extreme way he expressed this aspiration for the connection of Srimati Radharani. So he's known as our Prayojana Acharya. And his life is very striking, and it is a great example for us because he was born in an extremely wealthy family. They were billionaires, you know, by today's standards. They were employed by the government. They were like something to do with tax collection, you know. So they would collect taxes and they would keep a big sum for themselves, you know, as part of their wages. So they were like extremely wealthy. And his father and his uncle, Hiranya and Govardhan. His father was Govardhan, his uncle was Hiranya, and he was the only son of his father, and also his uncle didn't have any. So he was like the heir to this huge fortune, and they expected him to, like, you know, take up the business and carry on with their work, but But it's so striking because Raghunath Das Goswami, he was completely indifferent. He completely indifferent. He had everything, but he didn't want anything. And there's one very, very nice exchange that's described between his parents, because at a certain point he keeps running away from home because he wants to go and stay with Mahaprabhu, and they like bring him back, and they literally have guards watching him. At one time they have 10 guards watching him, so he doesn't run away. And at a certain point, one of his parents, I think his mother, they're like so frustrated, what are we going to do with this boy? And she says, why don't we just tie him down with some ropes? Then he can't go anywhere. And then the father, he says, he already has a wife who's as beautiful as a heavenly apsara, heavenly goddess. And he has as much wealth as King Indra, the king of heaven. And these are the greatest ropes in this world. These are the strongest ropes in this world. These are the things that really tie people down. So what will you do with ordinary rope? But actually his family, they were very pious people. They were like good Hindus, you could say. But they didn't, they're described as Vaishnav Prai, means like Vaishnavs, but not exactly Vaishnavs. And they actually were extremely generous, and they supported many, many Vaishnavs and Brahmins and good people in the region of Nadia. And they, like Advaita Acharya, they gave some money every month to him. They also supported Haridas Thakur. And many, many Vaishnavs and, in general, good persons, they supported them. So they were like good, pious people, but they didn't want to see, they themselves weren't, like diving in, and they didn't want their son to dive in, So, anyhow, then at a certain point when Mahaprabhu, after 5 years of sannyas, Mahaprabhu went to Navadvip, and he also was planning to go to Vrindavan, but it didn't work out that time. But when he was coming back to Puri, he stopped in Shantipur, which is the place of where Advaita Acharya lived. And at that time, Raghunath had an opportunity. He got permission from his parents to go and visit Mahaprabhu. And Raghunath Das Goswami, his nature was always extremely shy, very humble and shy nature. And he didn't directly go, he was too shy to directly go and talk to Mahaprabhu, but he was always in this anxiety, like he wanted to leave everything and stay with Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu, of course, he could pick up on that. And one day he called him to him, and he told him, Stira hoya gore jao na hao batula. Calm down, go home, don't be a crazy man. And he said, gradually we will cross over the ocean of material existence. And also this expression, I think it's at that time he mentioned, Markata Vairagya, means monkey renunciation. Because we hear this phrase sometimes, because monkeys, they externally, they look very renounced, right? They don't even wear clothes. They just eat like berries. They live very simply. They live in trees, and So externally, they look very renounced. But generally, what are the monkeys thinking about? The male monkey is thinking about the lady monkey. The lady monkey is thinking about the male monkey. So they look very renounced, very, detached from material pleasure. But actually, they're always thinking of sense pleasure. So this idea that, just making some external show, but your heart is full of desires, that's not what spiritual life is about. It's an internal cultivation. Don't be too eager to make an outer show of that. So he gave this instruction to Raghunath Das Goswami, this is an inner cultivation. Go back, learn to adapt to the environments that you're in, and keep it within your heart. In the proper time, Krishna will give his mercy. He will give you the opportunity to come into closer connection with me and, full engagement. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he took that to heart, and he went back home, and he got married, and he got involved in business, but internally always wanting, waiting for that opportunity when he could leave everything. And then of course he had the opportunity. He came to this realization that he needed the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. To get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, you have to get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And so at one time Nityananda was nearby in Panihati, and Raghunath Das Goswami went to see him, and he, again, always very shy, and he stayed at some distance, and then Nityananda called him over, and he told him, "Why are you acting like a thief? Why are you staying so far away? And I'm going to punish you, and you have to feed me and all of my followers." And so then he arranged this big huge festival. It's called Chira Dadi Mahotsav. This rice, and this flat rice and yogurt, and so he, like a big morning breakfast festival, he arranged in a very elaborate way. There's a very beautiful description of that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I really like one comment there, how Raghunath, was it him or was it maybe Raghava Pandit? I can't remember. But they bought, like, all of the merchants in the area who were selling like foodstuffs that they wanted to give, like yogurt or this chira or sweets or some fruits. They bought like all their stock, and then they were distributing it in this festival, and they would give it back to those same merchants who they bought it from. I like that very much. To me, it's like very nice example of what mercy is. Buying from them and then giving it back for free. This is mercy. So they had this very grand festival, and it's mentioned that Mahaprabhu himself also came there, like invisibly, and he was taking and this very grand event. And so in this way, Raghunath, he got the special blessings of Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, and then Mahaprabhu. And soon after that, he had an opportunity to escape. He one morning very early, the family guru Jadunandana Acharya, he came there, and it was very early, and he met Raghunath was there, and he said, "Oh, I have to leave for some business, for some work, some job, and I need somebody to take care of my deity. So can you come with me?" I think because Raghunath, he was seen as an influential person, like he's the heir to this, wealthy family, powerful family. I mean, they were like royalty, really, like that. So he asked Raghunath if he could come with him to speak to some man who could take care of his deity while he was away. And so Raghunath went with him. And at that time, Raghunath had these guards, like 10 guards. But they saw, the family guru has come and he's going with the guru. Then it's okay. They weren't suspicious. So Raghunath got this opportunity. He went with Jadunandam. And then they were like halfway, and then Raghunath said, "Oh, you don't have to trouble yourself. I can go alone and I'll speak to this man. You can go on your way, don't worry." So then Raghunath went, and he dealt with that, spoke to the person, and then he ran. He just went for it. And he was very clever, because he knew that soon enough, his family would start searching for him. So he spent a whole day walking in the opposite direction from Puri, because everybody knew he wanted to go to Puri to be with Mahaprabhu. So he spent a whole day walking in the opposite direction. And then after that, then he started to go towards Puri, but he went like not on the main road. He went. I was just hearing Srila Sridhar Maharaj's talk. He said he went on the seaside, along the shore of the ocean. He went that way to Puri. And meanwhile, his family, they sent people to search. Within a few hours, they realized what happened. They sent people to search for him, but they couldn't find him because he went like this, zigzag way. And we're told Took him 12 days. 300 miles, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said. 300 miles to get there to Puri. And he did it in 12 days and hardly eating. He only ate on 3 of those days. And then finally he reached Puri, fell at the feet of Mahaprabhu, and you can just imagine like this emaciated figure, like dirty and not eating, and he just fell at the feet of Mahaprabhu, and he like wasn't well, and Mahaprabhu told his servant Govinda, take care of him, nurse him back to health, feed him. And so Govinda was looking after him for a few days, and then finally he was a little better, and he came to see Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu blessed him, and Mahaprabhu made this very heavy comment. He kind of like half joking, but he said, "You are very fortunate because Krishna has saved you from the stool ditch of materialistic enjoyments." Very happy. And he speaks about his father and his uncle like in this type of way, and then he says, but they're like my family, so I can talk about them like this, like we have a close relationship, because as I said, they were very generous to the Vaishnavas, so they were well known. Mahaprabhu knew them, so Mahaprabhu made this kind of comment, we're like closely connected, so I can talk about them like this. And then Mahaprabhu put him in the care of Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar, of course, he was the most intimate and close associate of Mahaprabhu. He was known as the second manifestation of Mahaprabhu. And so Mahaprabhu gave this instruction that you will stay under the care of Swarup Damodar. And he followed that so much that he became known as Swarup Damodar's Raghu. He was called Swarupera Raghu, the Raghu who belongs to Swarup. Because Mahaprabhu had there were a few Vaishnavas who were called Raghu. There was Raghava Pandit, there was Raghunandan Thakur, and then Raghunath Goswami also. And Mahaprabhu, he made some comment, I have 3 Raghus. And so to distinguish between these 3, some of the Vaishnavas would refer to him as the Raghu who belongs to Swarup, But then at a certain point, Swarup Damodar, he was feeling Raghunath, he was feeling, I came here thinking I was going to get the direct shelter of Mahaprabhu, but I've been put under the care of Swarup Damodar. And he was feeling he wasn't feeling disappointed, but he was feeling like he wanted some personal instruction, sometimes devotees, they'd come to Navadip and Gurudev might, put them in the care of Mahananda Prabhu or something, but they're feeling I want some personal instruction from Gurudev. So Raghunath was feeling something like that, he wanted some personal instruction, and again, always very shy, but he somehow conveyed this message, maybe through Swarup Damodar he conveyed this message, do you have any special instruction for me? And then Mahaprabhu called him and he told him, I've put you in the care of Swarup Damodar because Swarup Damodar, he's better than me. He knows better than me what this is all about, so he's in a better position to instruct you than I am. It's not a lower thing. In fact, I myself, I can learn from Swarup Damodar. And then he said, but if you really want something, I can tell you some instruction. And then there's these famous instructions he gave. Gramya Katha na shunibe, Gramya Varta na kohibe. Not to hear Gramya Katha, materialistic talk, worldly or ordinary talk. Don't hear it, don't speak it. Balo na kaibe or balo na paribe. Don't eat too nicely, don't dress too nicely. And amani manada hoya, Krishna, Radha Krishna, mana se koribe. Then I can't remember exactly the Bengali, but remaining, humble and all, giving respect to others and remaining and not expecting respect. Always render service to Radha Krishna in your mind. He gave these instructions to Raghunath. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he was there in Puri for the very last 16 years of Mahaprabhu's pastimes in the world. So that was the last 12 years, though, that was the period when Mahaprabhu entered into this state of deep separation from Krishna, this mood of Srimati Radharani. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was a witness to that. This was like the climax of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, like the real reason why he came to taste that. So Raghunath Das Goswami and Raghunath, he was like so close to Sri Damodar, who was so close to Mahaprabhu. So Raghunath, he was like kind of uniquely situated, you could say, and saw many things, and received special, revelation of the nature of Mahaprabhu. So he was there at that time, and then finally Mahaprabhu left the world, and Sri Damodar, he left practically the same day. It's not exactly known. He left like the same day or the day after, but it was like that, like almost immediately, because Sri Damodar, he couldn't tolerate to be separate from Mahaprabhu, so he left almost immediately. And so Raghunath, it was like he lost everything immediately. So all of a sudden, he lost everything. So he was feeling really lost and, suffering this separation. And he decided, I cannot live anymore. I cannot continue with my life. And so he decided to go to Vrindavan and to commit suicide by jumping from Govardhan Hill. Generally, suicide is considered extremely sinful from the Vedic perspective, but there's some special cases and there's some special ways of doing it which is considered acceptable. And so this was one, and so he decided to do that, just to jump from Govardhan Hill. But then when he got to Vrindavan, he met with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and he felt Mahaprabhu's here, he's living in them. And in particular, he took shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj also spoke about how in this way, Raghunath Das Goswami, he's known as our Prayojana Acharya, right, who showed us our highest ideal. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, he actually showed us in a very specific way, like what it means to be a Rupa Nuga and what is our highest attainment. Because you see, what is our line? Our line is Rupa Nuga, right? Under the shelter of Rupa Goswami, or in the abode of Vrindavan, Rupa Manjari, right? This is what has been pinpointed as our highest attainment, to have entrance into the Manjari class under Rupa Manjari. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, he showed that, he came, first he came and he had the shelter of Mahaprabhu, whom we can take as Radharani. Mahaprabhu put him in the care of Sri Damodar, who is Lalita Saki. And then eventually he came to Rupa Goswami, who is Rupa Manjari. And it was there actually, under the guidance of Rupa Goswami, that he felt this is my place. Like he really felt like, there's another talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he says like you found the desired stop on the train, like this is the destination, That was how he felt with Srila Rupa Goswami. And so in the same way, this is what has been shown to us by our gurus as the highest attainment, under Rupa, through Lalita Saki towards Radharani. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, he demonstrated that. And very, very deep attachment for Rupa Goswami. When Rupa Goswami left the world, he was devastated. And there's some very poignant, very heart-rending prayers where he expressed that. There's one, what is it? Shunyayate Mahagushtam Girinja Jagarayate Tundayate Tundayate. I can never remember that verse, but saying how very extreme verse, saying that now in the absence of my Gurudev, Rupa Goswami, this Govardhan hill, which previously was, Govardhan, Raghunath, when you think of Govardhan, you think of Raghunath Goswami, because Raghunath had such deep affinity for Govardhan. He wrote prayers about Govardhan. Also, Mahaprabhu personally gave him a Govardhan Shila. It was Mahaprabhu's own Shila, Govardhan Shila, that he had for like 2 years. He personally gave that to Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath and he lived in Govardhan on the banks of Radha Kund. So he had very close feeling for Govardhan. But after Rupa Goswami left, in this prayer he expressed, now I feel that Govardhan is like this tiger coming to devour me. Like it's become something inimical. Without the shelter of my Gurudev, now this Govardhan is something fearful to me. And Radha Kund, which is so beloved to me, this is like a tiger coming to attack me. So very, very extreme feeling he expressed in the separation of Srila Rupa Goswami, and showing us, demonstrating how important is the shelter of Guru. Without that, all of these wonderful things, they can actually be something, unhelpful to us, without the shelter, the connection of Shri Guru. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he's one of his most striking qualities is his vairagya, his detachment, his indifference to the world, which, as I said in the beginning, was so striking because he came from such a wealthy family. But his whole life he showed that, When he was in Puri, his family, it's like inconceivable. His family were billionaires, and their son willingly adopted the position of a beggar. So Raghunath, he lived in Puri like a beggar, and his family at first they sent a cook, they sent a servant, they arranged a house for him in Puri because they couldn't tolerate that they're living in luxury and their son is living like a beggar on the street. It's just inconceivable. So in the beginning they sent all this stuff, but he didn't accept it, But what he did is in the beginning he would sometimes put on a big festival for Mahaprabhu and the devotees, and he did that occasionally for some time. And then he felt like this isn't right, and like I'm meant to be living like a simple sadhu here. I shouldn't be taking all of this, and so then he stopped that. And Mahaprabhu he inquired, oh, now he stopped doing that. Why is that? And Sri Damodar told him, oh, he's thinking it's not proper, and you're not really happy. And Mahaprabhu, he commented, yes, he is right. And he said, actually, it is not good to take something like these are very wealthy materialistic people, his family, they're supplying this, then what is being prepared from that will be contaminated, actually. So he's living like a simple sadhu, like a sannyasi. It's not good that he's taking all this facility. So Mahaprabhu was pleased. And then there's that famous incident, Raghunath, at one time he would stand at a particular place by the Jagannath temple and like waiting for anyone who wanted to give him some prasad. And he did that for some time, but then he felt, I feel like I'm a prostitute. I'm thinking, will this person give me something? Will that person give me something? And so he stopped that, and then he was going to this booth that was for poor people, and he would, they would just give like freely some prasad. But then he felt, but this prasad that I'm taking, somebody else could take it. I don't want to take somebody else's prasadam. He was so extreme. And then eventually he went to take this old prasadam that was rejected from the Jagannath temple. You've heard this story, it's a very famous story. And it's said that even the cows, they wouldn't eat that. And he would take like this old rice and he would wash it and take like the inner part and little salt, and he would take that. And one day, Mahaprabhu, he heard that Raghunath was doing this, and he came there at that time when he was eating, and he said, "Oh, Raghunath, you're keeping the sweetest prasadam for yourself. You're not sharing with me. What is this? This isn't fair." And Mahaprabhu started to eat that also. And then Srila Damodar came and he stopped Mahaprabhu. This isn't for you, my Lord. No, please don't take this. And then later, so he lived like this extremely simple life. And then later when he was in Vrindavan, also, like in his last days, he would just take some buttermilk, very, very simple. And very detached from his environment. There's also, Srila Sridhar Maharaj told one story how because he would just live like he had no residence. He would live under a tree, tree to tree. And at one time he was on the banks of the Jamuna, absorbed in something, maybe writing or reading or chanting or something. And a tiger came right next to him, a big tiger, and drank some water from the Jamuna, and then went away. And Raghunath didn't even notice. This big tiger just came next to him. But Sanatana Goswami happened to be walking by, and he observed this, and he was a little concerned. Like, too much vairagya, too much indifference to the world. And Mahaprabhu, he'd also instructed Sanatana Goswami, "My devotees are very poor, will you please take care of them?" Because Vrindavan became like a pilgrimage site, and Vaishnavas would come from especially Bengal, and Mahaprabhu gave this instruction, "Take care of my devotees when they come." And so Sanatana felt this in his heart, like, I need to take care of the devotees. So he was very concerned, and he arranged some like construction, like at least have some little bhajan kuti or some little hut, for some protection. So he arranged for that. And so he lived his last days there in Vrindavan. He lived for many years, like 80 something or 90 or something, many years he lived there. And there's so much that can be said, but we only have so much time. And just a little bit about Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And I was hearing today this talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and when he comes to talk about Krishnadas Kaviraj, he says, what can we say about him? Like, he has given us Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's given us our life, Like, what can we possibly say? Like, he's given us everything. And it's a very extraordinary thing, because Krishnadas Kaviraj, he was like maybe 2 generations after Mahaprabhu. So he didn't personally meet with Mahaprabhu, he didn't personally meet with Nityananda Prabhu also. But he was like the chosen one to write like the book, about Mahaprabhu, like the definitive work. He was the chosen one. And the Vaishnavas of Vrindavan, who were actually senior to him, they've requested him to write this book. And the reason for that is because he was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami. And so, who is Raghunath Das Goswami? As I said, like, he was the most intimate follower of Srila Damodar, who was the most intimate follower of Mahaprabhu. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, when he was from Bengal also, but when he came to Vrindavan, he took shelter of Raghunath. And so Raghunath Das Goswami shared things with him which nobody else knew, like the Mahaprabhu, Radha Bhava Duti Sivolitam Naumi Krishna Srupam. Who is Mahaprabhu? We're told at the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's the combined form of Shri Radha Krishna. This was not known, actually. Even like, close associates of Mahaprabhu, obviously they love him and they worship him, but they don't know actually this very fine internal thing going on. That was only known to very few. And it's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that only Srila Damodar really knew about this. And if anyone else knew it, it was because they knew from Srila Damodar. So, you know, this is the line, Sri Damodar Raghunath Das Goswami, and then Kaviraj Goswami. And so Kaviraj Goswami, he was like privy to things that most others did not know. And so he was requested that the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, they were reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, which Vrindavan Thakur had composed, and they were relishing that. They were very much appreciated. They would daily hear that. But they felt like something was missing, you know. And Vrindavan Thakur, he's mainly covering the early pastimes of Mahaprabhu, not so much the later pastimes. And also, it's mentioned, Vrindavan Thakur, he was a disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. So he was very ecstatic in the mood of Nityananda. And so he spent so much time glorifying Nityananda Prabhu. And so there wasn't so much space to glorify Mahaprabhu. So the Vaishnavas felt like there was some necessity, you know, that the later pastimes of Mahaprabhu were not told. And so they felt Krishnadas Kaviraj, he was the one, you know, who would be able to present that properly. And so they requested him to do that, and then it's also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita how he received that request of the Vaishnavas, and to be sure, really sure about that, he went and he prayed to the deity of Sanatana Goswami, Madan Moham in Vrindavan, and prayed like, is this really your desire? Is this really what you want? And then at that moment, just when he was making that prayer, the garland of Madan Moham fell from his neck. And it was very striking, like everybody who was present in the temple, they could see this was some special mercy that was being extended to him. And it was like so obvious. And everybody started chanting, very inspired. And the pujari, he took that garland that fell and he put it on the neck of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And so then he received this confirmation that this is the desire of the Lord, this is the desire of the Vaishnavas. And then he came to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I think we're running out of time, but just quickly mention also that he also received the special mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. You know, he didn't personally meet with Nityananda, but Nityananda Prabhu appeared to him in his dream, and he gave him the instruction to go to Vrindavan. There in Vrindavan you will get everything. And so by his grace we have this book. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you know, the greatest theological literature that has ever seen the light of day. You know, even if we lost all the scriptures, but only this remained, you know, we wouldn't have lost anything. And it is like the condensed essence of all scriptural knowledge, la crème de la crème de la crème, you know. Everything's been condensed. Like everything there is like pure sweetness, pure Krishna bhakti, you know, it's very pure devotion, nothing, it's not mixed with anything else. And it is presenting Chaitanya Leela in the, you know, in terms of Leela, the pastimes, it's presenting the pastimes in a very beautiful and attractive and charming way. But also, from a philosophical perspective, it's giving very strong siddhanta, you know, and it's establishing, you know, the ontological nature of Mahaprabhu and his Leela and his associates, and, you know, like this very like scientific and philosophical way. So, you know, from all standpoints, you know, beautiful and dignified and philosophical and, you know, hearts capturing from all angles, you know, it is the most wonderful book. So we are so indebted to him, and we're very happy and fortunate to remember these great Vaishnavas, and we're fortunate we've heard something about them from our gurus, you know, so as they've entered our lives in one way or another, and we're fortunate that on these days we can remember them and pray for their grace. Pray they can keep us at their feet, at the feet of our Gurudev. Okay, well, I'll stop there because it's getting late. You need to take some dinner. Jai Srila Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai, Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami ki Jai, Jai Srila Tadiya Tirabhav Mahamahotsav ki Jai, Jai Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Should we sing Hari Harai or should we just, yeah? Adran, you want to sing? Can you give her a book? Sure.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Govinda Ram Sri Sudana.
Govinda Ram Sri Sudana.
Giri Hari Gopinath Madhana Mohan.
Giri Hari Gopinath Madhana Mohan.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Hare Krishna.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Hare Krishna.
Radha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Sa Parikara Shri Guru Gorangi Sundar Radha Devidasi ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Maharaj Maharaj ki jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sriyukta Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Bhakti Srimati Saraswati Thakur ki jai, Vishakha ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Will you turn the camera so we can see? Otherwise we get complaints. If we say how beautiful Mahaprabhu is, but we don't show him, we get complaints.